back to Gaming in the Basement. This is the conclusion of my two-part interview with Kalloth0467. If you missed part 1, please make sure you check it out. Let's continue. So you mentioned PC customizations and mods and that kind of community. And that's something I don't know about because I'm more of a console gamer. Can you talk a little bit more about that and
Yeah.
just types of mods and customizations people use in games?
For the most part, they tend to be either like cosmetics, like Spider-Man, for example. They when the game first got launched, they were adding a couple mods to it. Like some of them were because in the Marvel Spider-Man, they don't show the black suit, they don't show the symbiote suit at all. They do that intentionally for a reason, and I actually love that they're doing it that way. But if I mean, I know the Spider-Man community well enough. I know that they're very impatient. They wanted to see what's going to happen. Like the fact that literally less than 24 hours before the game actually came out, because some people got early copies, there's already a black suit mod out there. Like people will mod everything in the games they want. Like people were adding tons of suits to it. They were changing little things around. Like some things I really wish they wouldn't change. Like that's one of the reasons why I also love and hate it. Mostly love, but like people were changing all the pride flags to American flags, and immediately they were saying they weren't saying I'm homophobic, but they also kind of were. Nexus Mod said, "Hey, either cancel this mod now or you're banned," and they got banned right afterwards because they found out the people who made it were actually really homophobic. So
Oh,
it's one of those things. Like I love the PC community because there's so much we can do with it. Like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, the second game, it was never finished when it came out. It was like 80% done, but a lot of the unfinished stuff was in the game data or in the game files. When it came out to PC, people ended up basically fixing and finishing the game for them, which is really nice because that's not very common. At least at the time, that wasn't very common because a lot of the times, if you got the game in in a case when you bought it, that was it. There was no internet to patch it with like day one patches. There was no like extra DLC you could add. It's just whatever was there, it was there, which really didn't make the game very fun for people until the PC community modded it. Like it's one of those things. It really depends on the game for me because Skyrim, like I just modded it recently because I wanted to play it again. Like there's like abilities to skip cutscenes. Like the very first cutscene in Skyrim, it's long and tedious, and I just don't care for it. So I modded to skip it because I just don't want to waste 10 minutes watching my screen do nothing. Or they added other things like those DLCs that they, well, not DLCs, but other things they've added like gameplay mechanics. Like they added fishing, for example, which was something they added in a Game of the Year patch, but I had to pay $40 for, which I wasn't going to do. So I just modded it. Or my frame rate is locked at 60 FPS. I don't like that. I was able to unlock it using a mod. It really depends on honestly the game itself. Like Spider-Man was mostly cosmetics for me because I just wanted to see other suits. That's like one of my playthroughs was as a Super Sentai Spider-Man. It was a Japanese version where it's just the TV show was a Japanese take on it. It was very Japanese. I mean, he was Spider-Man, but he had a gun. He got his powers from a spider god. It was a suit that came out of his wrist. He had a mech suit. Like, I decided to take that suit, mod it into the Spider-Man game, and made everything in Japanese, so everyone talked in Japanese with subtitles. And that just came out really well because I looked online and I can't really find anybody who's done that. So I might have been one of the first people who have done that. And that's something you're never going to get on a console because console you can mod it. It's just it's not as easy because all I had to do was just go on YouTube, find a guide, go to the Discord server that did the mod, that made the modding tool, add it to the game, and I was done in under an hour. Like it's a whole new world when you can mod games because you realize like there's so much you can do with it, and the fact that really the modding community online is amazing. Like when if you can find the right people, they will do amazing things with it. And that makes me so happy.
sounds like a really unique community and
Yeah.
experience. You can kind of say that you're a part of that game when you put out the mod and there's other people using it, and that's really unique to me. That sounds pretty amazing.
That and when I can see what people have come up with, and like I said, when I saw the very first one in under 24 hours that somebody already modded the black suit like that amazed me because I don't know how to program, I don't know how to code at all. But seeing people able to do this relatively fast just makes me happy because number one, I mean, it confirms that modding is never going to go away, and I made the right decision with a gaming PC. But number two, there's so much that I really don't know out there. Like when they were looking through the data files, because fans did that almost immediately. It's pretty common for most games to have a data file that people just go through and check it. They actually found an unfinished multiplayer section that never got released, and people are wondering, "Well, why didn't they finish it?" Number one. Number two, is this something they're gonna do in the sequel? Number three, can people bring it to life and bring it, like and actually mod it into the game? Like, this is not an easy task, especially since you're doing this on your own. Like, you're not doing this for money. You're doing this purely just because you want to see how this game looks as a beat 'em up. Like, that's amazing.
Sounds like something special, you know? I'm kinda jealous that, as a console gamer, we don't have that ability to be able to improve the game.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even just the simple things as like doing some cosmetic changes, like in Mortal Kombat, like just even doing some different skins on some characters would be cool. But honestly, it's one of the reasons why I had to go to PC because of just the mods alone make it work. Like, there's so many good mods out there you can just add to almost any game that's ever existed.
I mean, with Tekken, I feel like, there's this world for PC gamers and then, like, the console gamers are not included because 'cause they're the costumes that, like, people just mod, they're so much fun and they're amazing, but at the same time, you also your people do not so good things like create ways to cheat.
It's more impressive to me when I see someone doing like a really cool feat without any mods or cheats. Like, there's a footage of a guy in a Street Fighter tournament, and it was at the time when Street Fighter was no, I think it was Street Fighter. Yeah, it was Street Fighter. Street Fighter was not a very common game. Tournaments were not that big. This was like in the early 2000s. This guy in one of the Street Fighter games, you had the option to parry attacks instead of blocking it directly, and if you parried it, you wouldn't take any damage. And one of the attacks from Chun-Li, because she's known to have, like, incredibly fast kicks, has to be done in, like, an eighth of a second, and she does, like, maybe 10 or 12 kicks in a row, and I watched this guy, kid you not, parry every one of them, and I don't know Street Fighter, I don't know what's going on, but when I watched it for the first time, it was amazing because you're seeing the crowd's reaction, all going nuts, like he's actually doing this, and he end up it's one of those underdog stories where he was about to lose the fight. It was a tied game. Other guy had more health than him. Because he would have parry every attack that happened, he actually was able to win the fight. And it's an amazing see a sight seeing everyone go nuts. The fact that he actually did it. This is on consoles that were not meant to be played at that like FPS. Like, he did this on like PS2 era consoles. Like, the fact that he did this is still an amazing feat because I can't even do that now on a modern computer with modern graphics. I'm pretty good when it comes to my reaction time, but that's just amazing that he blocked every attack or parried every attack. And it's not like it was one or two; it was like 10 or 12. And I remember slowly people going nuts and nuts until we got them all, and then he ended up beating the guy and winning. Like, it's really an amazing feat when you see somebody do this with skill and not just for cheats or for mods. Like, it's just a testament to them as a person that there's so much going into this. Like, it's why I wish people would take esports more seriously because at the end of the day, it's not a physical thing you're doing with your body, but it's also a lot of mental thought. Like, nobody says chess isn't a real sport at all because chess is a lot of thought you're putting into the moves you're making. You're thinking ahead 10 or so moves. You're having to think of a lot of things. It's not just something like you move a piece and you're done.
What made you get involved in streaming?
Sam Witwer was going on stream and he was playing Star Wars Battlefront. It was really funny that he was playing the character Darth Maul that he actually voices. So it was funny experience seeing that. But he went on this rant about the new Star Wars movies about it, and it was one of those things I was sitting there watching him play, and I didn't really care about what he was playing. I just cared that he was talking about Star Wars, and it was one of those things. I'm like, you know, I like talking about things like this, as you can probably tell. Like, I just enjoy having conversations like this about things that I'm into, and I think I'm interesting. I also think that it's really funny that as a kid, I really wanted to be a YouTuber and when it was before it was a big thing because I used to watch people play video games on YouTube. Like, when I didn't have the system at the time, I used to watch people play it so I could at least get an idea of what's happening. Like Dead Rising, a childhood game that I didn't get a chance to play till many years because I didn't have a 360. It's one of those things as well. I used to watch people play it so I could at least see what it's like. Twitch wasn't a thing. Like, people doing Let's Plays was not really a thing at the time. Now that I'm an adult, I see that it's a very common thing. Twitch is a business, YouTube is a business. Like, they're not really a platform for entertainment. They're a business at the end of the day. And seeing that I could really do this is a lot of fun for me because I get to play games with people that I haven't gotten to play in a while where I'm playing for the first time. There are times where I've just seen things in my life that's going on. Like, when DC announced they're having a big change in their movies, I immediately wanted to stream and talk about that because I have a couple of DC fans who are my viewers as well, or my friends who watch, who like to engage with me about it. It's just fun to talk about it with people as it is because I get like a lot of engagement. And I didn't actually realize how much of a difference it makes when you have people interacting with you. It's fun because you can't really do that like when you're just playing by yourself, like unless you're talking to someone directly. But
Do you have any goals and visions with your Twitch channel and community?
Honestly, it's a lot of long-term goals. I want to stream for a living because to me, it's not about the money. It's not about really the fame. It's just about just being able to do this with people because like if I can make enough money to get by and also do this full time, I get to be creative when I'm streaming. Like I have when I get around to it, I want to start doing my YouTube channel again. I want to upload like highlights. I want to do like uploading my walkthrough or my playthroughs on YouTube. When I was in college, I was studying primarily media theory and video production because I was working for like my school's video production team. Like I have an editing background. That's really where I'm at the most home with because it's just fun for me. It's not really working for me. Or when I'm doing photography, like I was really into that at a point where like my last job, I had a camera that I was given. It was a mirrorless Sony camera I was given, and they told me have fun with it. You're selling Sony cameras, you need to know your product. Like I had a lot of fun being able to take photos again because number one is a very expensive camera, and number two, it was just fun to get that creative mindset again and getting by. And if I can make
Yeah.
Twitch my primary source of just working, I'd be happy with that. I wanna get bigger. I mean, I don't know how big is too big but I wanna get bigger. I want my own little community where I can just talk to people in, where I can just do my own thing. I have a pretty decent set of followers who come in pretty frequently to chat with me. But I mean, I don't have a Discord that's as big yet. I have one made up. I just haven't finished it fully and I'm not really active on it because 'cause I'm a part of Saviors, but, like, I want my own little community I can do my own thing at and just really I can be myself in and just have fun with them because that's really what it's all about.
That's the dream, is to turn something you love into your career.
Definitely.
But I hope you get there. I know it's hard, but I think it's possible.
I think so too. I mean, I have a good feeling on myself considering when I first started doing this in May of 2022, I had like one person tuning in. It was my friend doing it. And just seeing how far I've come since then just is a great feeling because really I've only been doing this for under a year. And I took several months off after I first started because I just got too busy with work. But I guess it's a nice feeling of seeing how far I've come. I had a revelation to get back into streaming when I got COVID because it's one of those things that when I was really delusional and I had my fever, I came to the conclusion like I should go back into Twitch. And I remember writing it down like my first or second day I had COVID. Came back to it after I was recovered. I'm like, "Oh, right, I forgot I said that." I'm like, "I should do that because I had a lot of fun doing this, and I really missed that creative outlet." So, and that's I'm glad I did because it's been a lot of fun since then. Right around when I went back into it, I started picking up a little bit of traffic, and I tried networking more, and it's just been great making new friends that way as well.
As a streamer, what's something that you think is very important and a core principle of your streaming philosophy?
Honestly, I like to be very genuine. I like to be very honest. I don't like to lie to my streamers at all because if I'm gonna recommend something or say to do something, it's for a reason. I don't wanna lie to them and not show them the real person I am or just be genuine to myself. Sure, people can go on YouTube and recommend products, or people can go on Twitch and recommend stuff, but I'd rather just not say, "Hey, play this because 'cause you're sponsoring me." Like, no, if it's a shit game, I'll say, "No, don't play. It's a shit game." Like, I'd rather not get that endorsement or that sponsorship because they're telling me to play a game that's shit. Like, I'm not gonna say it's a bad game. I never played it. I have no thoughts. It's just I see it everywhere, but like Raid Shadow Legends, that game is everywhere. People are always plugging about it. People are always saying to play it. Like I didn't even go on my way to apply for a sponsorship because I just see it everywhere. Everywhere I see online, it's always aggressive microtransactions. I don't want to deal with that. And really, it's all about your dialogue and your audio because I can play any game I want. I know I'm not the most amazing gamer, and I've established that to myself, and I don't really care because I know I'm pretty good, but I'm not the best. There are better people out there. It's really about the commentary to me.
You seem very at ease while talking to your audience. Is that something that comes naturally to you, or did you have to work on that?
That's really funny you say that because like the first few months I was shitting myself like how I was gonna do this because I have a big problem of talking too fast or tripping over my tongue or just not making a lot of sense when I talk. The idea of talking to people when I'm gaming, it's a different experience when you're talking to people directly because it's really you having a conversation with people. Just remembering that people are here to have fun with you and also remembering that, hey, it's okay if you need a second to slow down and rethink what you're saying or just take a minute or two because your chat's still gonna be there. I have a lot of what's the right way to put this? Let's see. Imposter syndrome, exactly, there we go. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
know that I have a lot of that when it comes to my streaming because I think I'm pretty funny, but there are so many days I'm like, "No, nobody cares." The fact that you have people tuning in regularly on a whenever you can, or people are recommending things, like, people care about you as a person that you have to remember that people will always want to well, I'm not gonna say always, because always is a kind of a hard way to say, but people, for the most part, will wanna see you because of you itself and not because 'cause you're in, like, a character acting like somebody else, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. There are people who do that though, that kinda like they have like a persona or a character that they do play. So I
Yeah.
guess it kind of just depends on like what you want to do.
Yeah. I like VTubers are a big thing for, and I just never got into them personally. I like talking to my audience. I guess sounds really egotistical, but honestly, just seeing my reactions to when I get things down, like well, I cooked one of myself playing Fortnite with a couple of my friends, and it was a game where I thought we were gonna. And I remember the whole time during that game, I was kind of like basically heart was racing. Everything was all like I was on edge. I was ready to win this because both my teammates went down. It was down to me. Like, just seeing my reaction when I actually got the W was just so great. Because A, I was like, "Oh, thank God," in my head, and B, I was like, "Okay, you can breathe normally now," because you were kind of I didn't even realize I was kinda holding my breath a little bit when I was playing and just trying to be, not do anything I was trying to focus so hard, so seeing my reactions either when I've won games or when I've beaten bosses or just seeing my reaction to things is always kind of cool because, you can see, a minute where I win, I'm like, I get so excited and, there's just a character mode for me because I know, "Hey, that's who I am." It's fun seeing that in me, if that makes sense.
That makes a whole lot of sense. And so I think I'm going to kind of wrap up with your surprise question.
Okay.
So if you could learn one skill instantly, what would it be?
Honestly, I think learning another language because I have had so much trouble trying to learn languages in my lifetime. I've tried learning French in high school, and I had a lot of trouble with it. Since I have an Asian background because I'm half Korean, I've really wanted to learn Korean, but I know my head is just not hardwired for it because I tried so hard to pick it up, and I just have trouble. I'd love to learn either Korean or Japanese because Korean is just part of my heritage. I would love to know it. It's one of those things that I've never really realized, but I don't feel at home with my Korean community because I have the weird thing of where I'm half Korean, but I don't look Korean at all. I actually look more Hispanic, which is one of the problems because when I've tried talking to Korean people or Korean men and women, I don't look like them at all. I look different. Also, just not being able to communicate with them because I just don't know how to, and it's just unfortunate because I would love to be at home with them, but I can't really. Or Japanese because this is basically me becoming a weeb here, but because of the Yakuza series, I've gotten so much into them. I played through 0 to 7 in less than a year and a half. I went through every game in the series, all of them. I didn't 100% them, but I beat the storytelling or the story in the games. It's one of those things I've gotten so much into it where I want to learn Japanese because number one, English and Japanese are two very different languages. When I heard my therapist in college talk about when he lived in Japan, he would tell me the story of how it was a culture shock for him when I was about to go, put it this way, a little story on that at least, but I was about to go to England and I studied abroad in England in college for about 6 months and I was really anxious about it. So when I go to therapy, he would tell me when he was in Japan and he would tell me, yeah, he would hear "Good morning, Jonathan." But the problem was it would come up saying "Jonathan, morning good," and he didn't know what she was saying every morning till a month in. He realized, oh, because the way Japanese languages are, it's not the way we form sentences. It's very different. If you do a direct translation, it'll say something like 23 incoming. It won't sound like it's an English sentence. And that's really interesting to me because number one, the tone, when they're talking is so different. Number two, number three, it's just a whole new world out there. I mean, I love hearing people talk in languages. It's so interesting hearing how slang is for them or just seeing little things that we do without realizing it, how do I put this specifically? Really, it's just honestly, it's just slang and seeing everyone's different take on the language itself. There isn't any other languages like Asian languages out there, really, because every language is sort of similar, but Asian languages are very, very unique, and it's a testament to how much I've really gotten interested in learning it. I mean, hearing people talk about it in in anime or talk about it in movies is just so fascinating because you really can't explain it. You can't really explain it in English. It's very different for a reason. That's why I mean, maybe it's because it's foreign to me. That's probably why I'm so interested. But at the same time, it's different from what I've seen with other languages. With French, sure, when I would read it, I could kind of tell what's going on, and it is very much like the dog went up the hill versus Japanese. It's hill went up the dog, for example. French seems similar to me, but Japanese or Korean are vastly different languages that I'll never really know. If that makes sense.
No, that it does make sense. Yeah, I mean, languages are very hard to pick up. Even like accents sometimes
Oh
in
yeah.
your own language, it's pretty interesting. And when you hear somebody with a thick accent and you just don't understand what they're saying, but you know that they're speaking like
Oh yeah.
your language.
Oh yeah.
Even accents too are pretty interesting. My husband's from England, and we went over there to see family, and I was just hearing English accents the whole time. And then
Oh yeah.
when we went to a restaurant and ran into an American, like the American accent just sounded so different from how it used to me. Like it sounded like so much more harsher and like loud. And I was just like, no wonder they think we're loud.
Just hearing how well America is treated, especially in other countries, like even in England, it was such a vast experience for me. Like, granted, everybody spoke the language, but it's one of those. It sounds familiar, but it's not the same. Like, there's the accent, there's slang. Like, I'm sure you remember in England, people said cheers to everything you said, and it took me a good while until I got used to it because I just didn't expect to hear cheers everywhere, or just like a different slang or different words being used. I mean, just the amount of times I hear you taking the piss out of that or what, like or just like, specifically English slang was very different from American slang. And I loved hearing that. And when I got back to the States, I used to do that all the time where I had somewhat of a British accent towards the very end when I was there, but it wasn't enough where people would notice it. But the slang was always there. And it's funny because whenever I talk to my England friends, like my one friend Annie, which Anne, if you somehow hear this, you're one of my best friends in England. I hope you're still there and hope you're still well. Like I pick up my British slang again because when I hear her talk, it makes me picks up mine again. And all my other English friends, when I talk to them, I pick up all the slang immediately and I go back to doing it for like a day or two. It's really funny because I'll say things like cheers to people. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, nothing. It's a British thing. It's just nothing. But it doesn't happen with anybody else, but only happens to my English friend, which is nice because the 6 months I spent there was some of the best time I ever had in my life. And I wish I could be back there again right now.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it over there too. Like the food was amazing, people were friendly.
More friendly like that, especially that, which is not
Yeah.
always common in the States.
Yeah, and like the TV there is a lot more like diverse, I feel like.
Well, that and it is just an entirely different culture there as well. Like one of the things really dislike about America is we're basically all about work yourself to death and then keep working. Like there's always it's live to work, which
Yeah.
when I got to experience other countries, like not to make this about, I know this is the last question you're about to wrap up, but at least when I was in England, I got to spend several months studying about or going to other countries and just traveling and vacationing and just speaking with people there. Like I know it's so cliche, but it's really true. Like when you talk to other people from other countries, they don't really pride themselves on working all the time. They take tons of time off on themselves. They take care of themselves. Like again, I like my bank job because it pays well, but it feels like they want us to basically live to work all the time, and I that's just not me. Like when I hear that, like in England, like my friend Sarah was dating a guy there. She was talking to a bus driver there, and she's like, "Yeah, he gets paid probably better than she does, and myself right now. He gets like almost 2 months off of work every year, and sure, it was certification he had to get. Regardless, like he gets more time off than myself and her combined, and I get it. It's a very different world there, and it's a smaller country, but like Americans just they really pride themselves in working all the time, and it's not fun. They're like that's at the end of the day, I don't want to work until I'm 60 or 70 and then retire and then go ahead and start traveling then. Like I want to have fun when I'm a youth because I'm in my youth because number one, I have all the energy. Because when I'm older, sure, I'll have the money and the time, but I want to have the energy. I have the energy for it now. I just don't have the time or the money, but I want to do things now before it's too late because at the end of the day, we don't really know how the world's going to turn out in 5 years. Like, if you would have asked me when I was graduating in high school, so Nick, what's your plans after high school? I wouldn't have said, oh, it's a pandemic in 4 years, like or 5 years. Like, I nobody would have called that coming, and nobody really knew what was going to happen when that happens. And at the end of the day, like, sure, this was the start of this was when coronavirus started in 2019. We didn't really know what was going to go with it. We know what we could have expected, but at the same time, nobody really expected to be in a pandemic for really this long. Like, sure, it is mostly back to normal by now, but cases are still happening. Not to make this about COVID vaccines or anything, but it's just a very weird world right now. We don't really know what's going to happen by the end of the decade. I mean, for all we know, we can go back into lockdown by the end of this year again, or we can go back into lockdown in another year or two. So we don't really know what's happening, and it's the world where we live in. But to bring this all together back to what I was saying earlier, I wish we wouldn't always pride ourselves on working all the time because we're still people and humans are meant to do things besides work all the time. Like if that's really the life we're supposed to live, it's not a really fun life, I don't think, because there's so much more we can do in the world that besides working. Like that's Sure, working is essential, but it's also not the only thing in the world that should drive you. There should be other things as well, like your hobbies or who people you spend time with. There's more to life than just working.
I mean, I agree 100%. I think, like you would even have more time to do Twitch and stream and
Yeah.
stuff. You should have more time to invest in yourself instead of somebody else.
Yeah, like, I know if in a perfect world, I only would work like 30 hours a week. I would have time to go exercise before work or after work. I could stream steadily on 2, 3 days. Like, I could plan out a schedule, or let's just say I didn't work for I'm not gonna say that this is the podcast where people decide, "No, you should quit your job and basically take money from the government." That's what we should be like. At the end of the day, I don't think I could definitely have a life where I don't work and do something, but I wanna do something fun. Like, put it this way, let's just say in a perfect world, we would all be paid equally just to live a life and do what we want. Like, as long as it's within reason, I really wouldn't care. Like, I always hear the argument, "Oh, if you take out everyone gets paid universally, then no one's gonna wanna work." Like, that's not true. Like, people are still gonna wanna work. Like, people's passions are to open restaurants or people's passions are to open gyms or whatever. Like, that's still a thing for a reason. Like, people are not going to decide, oh, I don't have a passion anymore. Like, yeah, if I was getting paid, let's say I was getting paid a little bit every month and everyone was getting paid universally, like I'd go back to the creative mindset again. I would just go back and start doing photography. I would go back and want to do filmography. Like, I wanted to be a filmmaker, but that's a very hard task to do. And I'm okay with what I do with on my computer because like I'm okay with streaming. I like doing my own content creation on my own. Like, that's fun for me. If I don't really make money off of it for a good little bit, that's fine. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing this because it's fun for me. Yeah, like people are still gonna want are still gonna have passions. Like, people like there's still volunteer firefighters for a reason. Like, that's just that doesn't go away because everyone's getting money. Like, people still want to do this because people love to do certain things for a reason. It's not just gonna go away as soon as everyone's paid universally, if that makes sense.
No, I totally get it. I think there are some jobs that people probably wouldn't want to do
Oh
a
yeah.
little bit
Oh yeah.
more, but I agree. You should be able to have a chance to enjoy your life instead of just working yourself to death. Because I mean, you should be able to enjoy your family. You should be able to enjoy your friend. You should be able to improve on yourself as a person. And you can't do that when you're spending your time working, making more money for somebody else than you making, investing that time in yourself.
And that's just the reality of the situation. Every corporation at the end of the day only cares about really one thing, and it's money. Like, they're not
Yeah.
gonna go out of their way to be like, "I'm so proud of you for doing this, this, and that. We're gonna do this for you," like that. So sure, it exists, but it's really not for me. And again, I don't think personally it's gonna really happen to me because it's one of those things that it only happens to specific people who are in bad situations who need help out of it, or just they get lucky. And again, I'd rather go to someone like that who can help them.
Before you go, I just need you to list your socials for me.
Sure. So my main handle is Kalloth0467. That's gonna be my Twitter, Instagram, my YouTube, and my Twitch. I am not very active on my YouTube yet. I am working on getting that going. I'm mostly active on my Twitter because I make all my announcements there when I'm going live or just tweets about my life or tweets about things that I find. Twitch, I'm gonna be always active on it unless for whatever reason I'm not. That's about it. I mean, I don't really use Snapchat for like Twitch specifically, but if I ever do, I'll definitely make an announcement to, like, or at least make it known for that reason. But I don't use it at the moment for that.
This interview was very difficult to edit. I couldn't include everything, and we had such a great conversation. But if you would like to hear the full unedited version, please join my Patreon for full unedited versions of this interview as well as others. Big thanks to Kalloth for taking the time to sit down with me. I was just able to catch him before work. If you haven't already, please stop by Cal's Twitch channel and give him a follow. My music today was brought to you by DJ Kern. Thank you all for listening. We're about halfway through season 1 and I'm having a blast. I really hope you guys are too. I'm pretty psyched for the next season. There are so many great streamers out there, but until next time, keep gaming.
I want to keep asking you questions, but it's been like 2 hours and
I have to get ready for work soon anyways, because I have to get ready like to pack up my bag. But honestly, I had a lot of fun chatting with you. I would love to do this again with you. I don't know if you have more questions you wanted to ask or
yeah, I mean, I had to skip over a whole like section of questions and even your answers. I want to keep asking more questions and I felt like I had to stop because it was just leading down the rabbit hole.